But let's jump into the next topic, and that is Ryan McDonough getting fired as the general manager of the Phoenix Suns. We should have had our boy Z on to talk about it, but we didn't end up getting that scheduled. But Ryan McDonough was hired on May 7th of 2013 as the GM of the Suns, and his tenure has now come up after October 8th of 2018 when he was relieved of his duties. Very odd timing for them to fire their GM after a draft, after a free agency, after the season didn't even start. I mean, this was very similar to, after the season ended, not after the season ended, and not even before the season started. Yeah, I mean, just a very weird time. Even look at last year, they fired Earl Watson after 3 games. So you look at this move.
Classy organization.
What are your first thoughts, at least on Ryan McDonough being fired by Suns?
Look, I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I think the timing is just wrong. Like it's absolutely wrong. If you're going to get rid of a GM, you do it before the draft. You let a new GM draft the guy. And I mean, let's be fair. We all thought it was going to be DeAndre Ayton going to the Suns anyway. That wasn't like exactly a mystery. But at the same time, I go, why not just go ahead and pull the trigger? Because do you like the move for Ryan Anderson? Do you think that sets up your team for success? The Trevor Ariza move, same thing. Like you're letting him spend money on multiple year contracts, and then you're kicking him out of town with 4 days to go till the regular season starts. Are you kidding me? Or like a week, whatever it was. I think the move itself is fine. I think the timing is the most ridiculous thing. Like if he's going to be bad and you want to blame him for everything, that's fine. You guys don't have a point guard. That's on him. Be my guest. But like y'all should have pulled the trigger on that earlier. Like or let him ride out the season, and then guess what? You get to first pick grab whoever's up after the season. So I think the timing's suspect.
Ricky,
for me, it was just when you sent it to us, I was just confused because it's like not only is it so close to the start of the season, the last thought that I could have in my head was when we talked to Z last time about the Suns, he didn't have anything bad to say about McDonough. Like it was like, to me, as an outsider, just confusing. Like, that's the word I would use to like, why now? Why this? Like, what prompted this out of nowhere? Because really the new GM coming in, besides trades, what can you do during the season?
Yeah. I mean, wait, what?
Besides, like, you're not going to sign any free agents. You're going to make draft picks during the season.
I think the biggest thing is we look at what was happening, and I think before the Ryan Anderson trade, I think this team was in a fine spot because, yes, you didn't have clarity at that point guard position because you didn't have at least a Stonewall for sure locked-in player because obviously we know the past injuries of a Brandon Knight. And, we're not sure if he's going to come back and bounce back fully healthy.
He's already out injured right now.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that's not a guy you can really bank on to be a fifth starter.
Yeah.
And clearly they weren't really fully going to push Devin Booker into that one spot. So you needed to make a move for a point guard. You didn't do that. That might have been on his checklist, and that might have been enough.
That was the final straw.
So
it had to be.
I mean, that's probably the only reasoning why you didn't. And also, I mean, general manager, you're still gonna have to bring up guys. You still have to sign, player spots when people, get injured.
Right.
There's a lot of duties of a general manager. It's not like, team's done on October 18th. Just I'll see you at the trade deadline.
Kick up the feet. Yeah.
So I mean, once they didn't get a point guard, I think that was probably the final straw. But still, I look at this last offseason, and it was fantastic for Ryan McDonough. And I even said it after our draft video, or in my draft recap when you guys were on VidCon. I thought it was the best draft of that year. Now, maybe looking back, it was a little bit shaky because they got rid of that 2021 unprotected first-round pick from Miami. But you still look at it, they got Ayton, who's arguably the best choice in the draft. Yeah. Some people say Luka, but clearly it's not. You didn't make a wrong choice going with
we won't know
Ayton.
that for 5 years.
Easy. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense going with Ayton.
Yep.
You end up getting Miles Bridges, who was a top 10 player in all of our mock drafts. We look at Eli Okobo, who was a fantastic kid from
Phenom, came on late.
Yeah, from France. I loved him from 3. He looks like a developing young point guard. And then you look at the year before, he ends up taking Josh Jackson. Like, he wasn't having. Like, his past 2 drafts haven't been bad, is what I've been trying to say. And you look at free agency, he goes out and gets Trevor Ariza, an addition that we thought was pretty damn good.
It was an interesting one because now they're super deep at the wing.
Yeah, but I also think it makes sense because you needed veteran leadership outside of Tyson Chandler.
I agree with that.
You needed a new veteran voice in there, and I think
someone who's
Trevor
not
Ariza was a
used to
good
losing
choice.
60 games a year. I mean, that's honestly the game changer for them is where's the motivation coming from? Where's the attitude in the locker room? Because after you lose so many games every single year, it's just a culture. Like, you have to change up the culture. So I like the move of bringing in Trevor. He's a guy who's been there, done that, won that, and is very good still for his age. Like, I think it was a good move.
Well, and you let him pick a coach too. Like you have a brand new coach in Igor coming in, and you don't let Ryan McDonough have any control over the roster now. And now he has to deal with James Jones, who we don't know what he'll do as the new choice.
He's like, where's LeBron at?
I mean, he's obviously has the championship pedigree that
he's
Phoenix
well respected,
desires.
At least among the league, and he's younger, so like I think that he understands. Like
Ryan McDonough was younger than I'm pretty sure. Ryan McDonough's like 34.
What?
Yeah, Ryan McDonough's like a child.
Oh my god. That's
he's 37. I'm pretty sure James Jones is over 37
They're
years old.
probably about the same age, yeah. But James Jones played in the league, and James Jones won rings. Like, there's a difference. Like, I'm not saying James Jones deserved all those rings, but he followed LeBron James around.
James Jones is 38. So yeah, Ryan McDonough was younger.
Okay, whatever. My point being, James Jones is more in touch with the players. He understands. He was part of the Players Association. I think that him stepping into the role, it's going to be a good thing. I just was kind of taken aback by the timing. For me, that's still a startling move. I like the addition of like a DeAnthony Melton. I think that, if they decide to roll with he and Eli Okubo and just be like, screw it, this year we're going to suck again.
Well, they don't have a choice. Even if they get an upgrade at the point guard, they're still going to suck.
TBD. But they've got a lot of wing depth. They got a lot of young kids that got to get playing time. That's the big thing.
Out of the 16 teams in the Western Conference, gun to your head, where are you putting them? You're putting them 15 or 16. Don't lie.
Yeah, I am.
So they don't have a chance. They don't have a shot in hell. There's two
if they
clear.
Had a point guard,
no.
If they had a point guard, Devin Booker stays healthy the whole year. Josh Jackson decides to not brick and play like the second half of last year. Like, there's a chance this team's decent.
They're too young. They're too young, and they need.
But they could win 30 games instead of 20 games.
But chance, when you say they have a chance to be decent, I'm thinking like playoffs.
No,
30
it's
wins.
The West.
That's what I'm saying. Like 30 wins is nothing.
West.
30 wins is nothing at all
compared
in
to
the Western Conference.
What's the record been the last couple of years?
That's true. I mean, I'm not saying it's not an improvement.
30 wins
but it's also, I mean, you need more than that to say it's actually a success.
I mean, you've got a team with the average age of younger than the college champions. I'm pretty sure.
Also, I think the expectation is you're going to be one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. Just be bad.
Yeah.
Just be bad so you get another high pick.
Yeah.
To make this team for sure good. In 4 or 5 years. Like you extended him in 2017 too. So it's not like he was like at the end of his contract. Like he just resigned.
Yeah. Well, and that just makes it more confusing of like why. And also the thing that I look into is, I could be wrong with this, but you've got a guy in James Jones who he played, his last season was the 2017 season. To me, it's like, why are you, yes, you're bringing him up as to be the interim, but he hasn't had a ton of experience being a GM. Is that good? I know he's got the player experience.
But he was around the right kind of guys, too.
He was around LeBron James, basically.
No,
that's who he followed.
Look at his time in Miami, being around Spoelstra.
Pat Riley.
He comes back to Cleveland. And obviously, before they got rid of, I can never remember his name.
David
Griffin. Another smart GM. So, like, if he took, and I don't know, I'm making assumptions here, but I'm going to assume that during that time, he was very talking to them quite a bit. I think that he's the kind of guy who would be interested in what they're doing, because it seems like he had that career path in mind already, that he wants to be a front office kind of guy. So he's got the right kind of connections to talk to guys and get an idea. Like, and as far as connections, those are pretty good ones.
The thing I relate it to is like, it's good to have those kind of mentors and have those people you can look to, but I kind of relate it to, since all my life in college, I was in the teaching profession, where it was, you can have so many mentors, you get thrown into that room for the first time, and it's like, whoa, this is a different animal. I am all on my own here. And the Suns are a team where they're not the Cavaliers, they're not the Miami Heat. It's going to be a completely different animal. It's just, yet again, confusing that, hey, let's fire a guy that has the experience, and we just gave an extension to for a guy that's brand new in this role.
No, it is a bold move, but it's the most Suns things that happen. It's like
bold move, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off.
If any team's going to go ahead and fire their GM at the start of the NBA season, and then hire a guy with no experience, basically fresh out the league from playing, it's the Suns.
Just when we thought the Suns couldn't get Suns.
And we also saw this with, I mean, you look at Magic Johnson, and Magic Johnson was pretty much, made president of basketball operation. We're like, how's this going to work? He's never done this in basketball. And then he goes up and gets Rob Pelinka, who was an agent for most of his career. And so far, that's been working well. Obviously, they went out and got LeBron James. It's helpful that they're with one of the most storied franchises in NBA.
GM of the year right there.
Franchise, and he is Magic Johnson. But still, you went out and got LeBron James. And you look at the drafts, so far, they've been pretty good for the Lakers. So, I mean, it's not really the experience that I'm worried about. It's just the fact that the timing is so odd. And, like, you look at the way that this team has not succeeded for 6 years. I don't think it's fully Ryan McDonough's fault. I mean, you look at my whole career outside, or my whole life, you look at their success, and it's boiled down to Steve Nash.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is. Steve Nash, D'Antoni, and Stoudemire.
And that's the one thing, if, like, Z was on, I'd ask him, because he's the
Z, hit us in the comments down below.
Yeah, he will. I was seeing stuff where people were like, should the Suns make Steve Nash the next GM or try to get him to be the next GM? And that's what I kind of relate the Magic Johnson thing to, is Magic Johnson, I think the whole reason why we never had that doubt with him taking the role in LA is because he is Showtime. If anyone understands the Lakers, it's Magic Johnson.
There was definitely
there is the can he pull it off and get a guy like LeBron to come, which he then said.
We laughed about the Paul George thing, obviously. Like that kind of blew up in the Lakers' faces of, we're not going to pay anything for him. Yeah. He'll come on his own. I'm sure there was a behind-the-door closed collusion case that kind of went down there, but yeah.
But I mean,
it's not all. It hasn't been perfect for him, but it's been an impressive start. I think the Steve Nash thing would be interesting.
Would you guys have wanted them to make Steve Nash the GM, or is that like a former Suns player?
I would rather have Steve Nash than James Jones. I mean, Steve Nash has been currently working underneath the Warriors regime, and has been there for a fairly decent long time. Like, I mean, he knows Phoenix. He has won in Phoenix. I think it's better than James Jones. I mean, I think James Jones, he was a Sun throughout his career.
Is Steve Nash front office, or is he assistant?
Player development consultant.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, he's not like, he's not making significant moves, but
I would think
he's got a
Steve
decent
Nash
position.
should be more of a coach than front office kind of guy, in my mind.
But I think if you're able to coach, you are still able to be a general manager, and that's why we do see the flip. Not at the same time. Not at the same time. But I mean, you even look at Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr was a former GM, I think, of the Suns, and obviously he's had a fine coaching career. I think Doc Rivers would be a fine GM, but he also has to coach basketball. I don't know about Thibodeau. But I mean, I think you can be a successful. I mean, you can also look at Phil Jackson too. But I think you can be a successful GM and also have coaching duties, because obviously you're not managing day-to-day operations technically and game-to-game operations, but you still are looking at these players, seeing how they're doing, how they need to grow, and you're also still building culture. And that's one thing that James Jones is at least talking about. He wants to make it easier for these young players to grow and succeed. And maybe that's not something that Ryan McDonough was able to do, because we look at Devin Booker, although he's been fantastic. You look at every other player he's drafted, they haven't really turned out to be great. Josh Jackson, obviously too early to take that out. Tyler Ulis, who they took, already off the team. Alex Len off the team. We look at Bender. It's tough for him to develop. Marquise Chris already off the team. Like, he hasn't been able to develop these young guys. So I look at him, and he wasn't able to build a culture out there. Yeah. And you look at his first year where he did have success, and that was basically a team that was given to him. He already had Goran Dragic. He had, I think, Tyson Chandler was on the team. Anyways.
Was that the team with, like...
Isaiah was on the team, but I think he signed it after he got on. So I think an Isaiah was his move. But all in all, it's just... Eric Bledsoe. That was the guy I was thinking of. But all in all, I mean, like, Ryan McDonough, while I think he does have a bright future, I think he will have a GM job again. I don't think it's bad that they fired him. I just think it's the weirdest timing in the world, like everyone else does.
That Suns roster had Barbosa, Bledsoe, Dragic, Fry, Goodwin, Green, Len, Marcus Morris, Markieff Morris, Plumlee, Ish Smith, and PJ Tucker.
I think the only guy he drafted was Len out of that.
What a stud-filled roster.
Yeah, and who their coach was? Jeff Hornacek.
There you go.
The guy that I loved. And he got fired after a year in New York.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just weird that it happens at some point. But we can't say that, because that comes when it comes to the draft.
No, they did it to themselves this time.
True.
By firing their GM 8 days before the season.
What are we saying when the Suns got Suns? What do you mean?
It's just bad mojo.
It's like Manny being Manny.
Yeah,
kinda.
it's like, not good.
It's like, what do you expect out of the Suns as an organization? That's what's
okay.
The most likely outcome for a Suns.
An inept move from an inept organization is what you're trying to say. Okay, I think that's fair. Because, again, who the fuck is firing their head coach? After
3 games?
Not even 3 games.
I thought it was 3 games last year.
I said, oh, who's firing their GM before this season even starts after you gave him a draft?
Right.
Like, that makes no sense.
Draft and free agency.
So unless James Jones had a huge deal with the
maybe he
whole
laid out a plan
draft,
how, you know, the Suns team's going to be right back in the thick of things in a year or two.
He kind of had an easy job, too. It's like you have the number 1 pick Ayton. So I think that maybe would have been easier. But then also, again, you still let him trade away that 2021 Heat pick. So
he could have gone up and gotten a point guard in the draft named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Which, by the way, about Shai Gilgeous, you know what's the best thing I love about him?
What's that?
His jersey.
That's pretty
How
dope.
it's like the name has to arch around.
It's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
yeah, I saw that on Twitter, too, guys. That's crazy.
I don't even have
Month-old
Twitter.
new.
Don't even have Twitter.
It's like
I just watched
month-old
preseason.
news, though.
I just like how it wraps around.
It's the
And how
longest
often
name
do we
ever on
allow-
the jersey.
How often do we talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Well,
I think every podcast.
we're gonna
since
talk
he's been
Brookings
drafted.
eventually.
I think we've talked about him every single
And
podcast.
he'll be a wet boy every week.
Probably not.
No.
Anyways, I don't know. The Suns are a mess. Nothing's new. That's pretty much what it is. So there's your Ryan McDonough talk. I was wrong about Ryan McDonough. Oh, well, I still think he gets a job in the future. I don't know where it's going to be, but, I mean, he worked under
Minnesota.
Yikes.
What if they fire Thibodeau, fire Layden, and then hire him as the GM?
Yikes.
Because what other team is going to get rid of their has a GM that's going to be on the way out?
I don't think he doesn't need a job right now.
No, but I'm saying
He could
like
find something else.
That's
Kangs.
the next team that's I'm looking at like
Kangs.
are going to fire their GM.
I don't think he's
going
going
to
to get a job.
front office.
I think he's going to be a free agent when it comes to next offseason. Let's put it that way. I don't think it's going to be
That's
a very
when-
soon hire.
That's when he could
We all
get hired.
expected David Griffin would be right back.
That's true. Where's David Blatt? You know, where are these guys? We'll
Yeah.
see. Anyways, that are our thoughts. That are our thoughts.
That are our
Our thoughts.